This is not a peace sign. This is round 2 of our question and answers video. Let's get right to the thing. Not as many questions this time around, but I wanted to answer these and I didn't get a chance last time, so here we go. Do you think a factor in American stupidity involves its school system? If so, how? Alright, that's a loaded question, and I also think it's a little bit, if you answer it the wrong way, it will give you the wrong perception of how I perceive the American school system. Yes, I think it's fucked up. But I don't think it's fucked up because of the teachers. That's a big thing right now, especially in Wisconsin. You know, they passed the anti-union legislation in Wisconsin, and it's going to fuck a lot of people over. I think it's more fault to the parents who, you know, 30 years ago, if your kid brought home bad grades, even 10 years ago, if your kids brought home bad grades, it was, why do you have bad grades at school? You're grounded till you get these grades up. Now, it's like, you go to the teachers, and it's like, why does my son have a bad grade? Why does my daughter have a bad grade? You know, it's just, our mentality has shifted into thinking that we have this propensity to turn children into victims whenever we can. You know, if a child gets bad grades, it's because the teachers aren't focusing enough on them. When most of the time, it's because the kid doesn't give a fuck. That's why I got bad grades. I didn't give a shit. I don't believe that it is the fault of the teachers. I think a lot of the things that teachers help you with, at least up until like 8th grade, are very good things. I think high school is irrelevant. I didn't learn shit in high school. Not a goddamn thing. Nothing that I can use in the real world. I've been in the real world since I was 17 years old. Never had to use anything I learned in high school. Not even once. I think we need to reformat our education system. I think we need to do away with the K-12 system altogether. In my ideal world, I would like to have a K-8 program, and then you base what you want to do, you know, with the things that you're good at. You know, if you are artistically inclined, take art classes through 9th through 12th grade. And you know, there's no reason why you couldn't switch over if you realize that you are more inclined to do something else later on. You know, I just think that our education system right now doesn't put people in the right direction. It gives everyone the same direction. And I think that's a really big problem. Is there anywhere I could read your poem, Death, Decay, and Windy Days? I think that's the title. If not, it is most certainly a line. Alright, people. That's one video I did not delete. YouTube deleted that. I'm pretty sure you can still find it on YouTube if you type it in. I think someone has uploaded it. I don't have a copy anymore. YouTube removed it from my channel. I didn't have time to download the MP4, so I never did. It's gone forever in my hands. I don't have a copy of it anymore. I still like the poem. They removed it because they said I used a copyrighted clip, but the reality of the situation is that it was fair use. But, you know, I don't have that many subscribers. I don't have that much weight to pull on YouTube, so it wasn't something I wanted to fight. So it's not on my channel anymore. Not by my power, though. In my power, it would still be on my channel. I really like that video. To what extent do you think business owns the American government? 100%. I mean, look at it. I mean, that's all the government is. Like, politicians are nothing more than lobbyists for companies. I mean, they pay them under the table. Companies don't even have to disclose who they're donating to. They don't have to disclose why they're donating to the people they're donating for. They can just give them unlimited amounts of money so they can continue to do whatever the fuck they want in America. The more money, all money is power. It's a representation of power. If you have money, you can make people do things. So once you have enough money, the people that enforce the shit that goes on in the country, you can just pay them, and then they're in your back pocket. So I think corporations own every single bit of this country, at least in the political spectrum. And you know, we're consumers. All of us are. We're a consumer obsessed society. It makes me kind of sick when I think about how much shit I use in a day that was made in some other fucking country. How many people do you know that will put a fucking t-shirt logo, a company's logo, right on their fucking chest? It's like you're a walking goddamn billboard, and people do it because, you know, they want you to know that they're wearing expensive clothes. Because if you have expensive clothes, it gives the illusion that you have money. And if you have money, then you have power. And if you have power, then you have fucking everything. So for the people that can't have power, they keep it on a very minimal level. Are Americans generally stupid or ignorant? Not any more than the rest of the country. The thing is, with people, the reason why it's so obvious in America is because the stupid people control everything. Because in a democracy, all you have to do is appeal to the lowest common demographic. If you appeal to the largest base of stupid, knee-jerk reactionists, then you can get things right by under their noses, and they'll never see it. Conservatives in America today are notorious for this. Poor conservatives especially, with voting against their best interests simply because someone has the name Republican attached to them. It's a lot more, it happens a lot more in the South than it happens where I'm at. But it blows my mind that there are people in the world that are like, God damn you, Obama, you're a fucking socialist bastard Muslim. But he just, like, one of his big landmarks is the healthcare bill, which a lot of fucking poor conservatives are against, even though it helps them. Like, you know how many poor conservatives I have met that have been directly affected positively by this legislation, and they still bitch about it? Like, that only happens in America. It only happens here, where someone can be like, I hate the things that someone did right for our country. I mean, I have my problems with Obama, don't get me wrong. He recently re-signed the Patriot Act after his whole campaign rallied against that bullshit. Fine, there's a fucking giant criticism there. Guantanamo Bay is still open. Another giant concern I have. He said in 2007 that he would picket along with the protesters if our government decided to take away their collective bargaining rights. Where the fuck is he? Instead, he says, I have no interest in this shit. I'm too busy. I'm Barack Obama, motherfucker. So yeah, I have my concerns. But here's the thing. In 2008, when everyone was kissing his ass, even including TJ, someone who I really, really respect as a human being. I really respect his opinions. He was all about Obama. Thought that Obama would really fucking shift the country in the right direction. And I said, no, dude, it'll just be fucking Bush with a black face. That's all it's gonna be. He will put forth the same legislations that Bush passed. It will be no different. But everyone, all these people will believe that it is different. Whether it be on the conservative side of the fence or the liberal side of the fence. If you ask conservatives, he's not conservative enough. If you ask liberals, he's not fucking liberal enough. And that is very fucking true. He tries to stay right down the middle, and that's the problem. If you try to please both fucking sides, you're not going to please either. Our healthcare bill was so watered down that it might as well not even be much fucking different. I mean, it helps me. I'm on my mother's insurance till I'm 26 years old. That is fucking amazing. But the original bill was so much more. It was just so much better in every conceivable way. But just like everything else in America, you have tons of people acting against their own interests. It's a sad reality of America. Everyone is operating against the things that will benefit them. Do I consider abstract art legitimate? Well, see, here's the thing, man. Who the fuck, to me, art is expression. If you express yourself with abstract art, then that is your expression. I don't really get into abstract art. I can't feel anything when I look at it. But I wouldn't be so fucking arrogant to suggest that it wasn't art, because, I mean, if that's how someone expresses themselves, then it's art, because that's what art is. Art is expression, whether it be graffiti or a painting or writing or making a video on YouTube. I think it's all art. I think putting limits on art is a problem, and everyone wants to do that. Everyone wants to put boundaries on what something is. It sits with me very, I don't know, it's not right. If an artist is a total douchebag and really is in it for the money, does that affect your perception of how good of an artist they are? Well, I think that's obvious from the start. If someone is operating for money, I think it's very easy to see through that shit. It's not hard. Like, you look at a band like Kiss and you're doing that for the fucking money, dude. Like, even though they're very open about it. You know, Gene Simmons signs his name with a fucking dollar sign, and is fucking wildly wealthy and just wants more and more and more and more fucking money. You know, as if he's not rich enough as it is. But I think, in a general perspective, I think it's obvious to pick the real from the false. You know, the people that are doing it to exploit people's feelings. It's very easy to point that out. Most people don't, because most people really don't care about art. They hear something that affects, you know, their senses, or their sensibilities rather, and that's all it is. You know, if you hear an angry song on the radio and you're feeling angry, you like that fucking song if you don't look into it. You know, if you feel happy and this happy ass, joyful, peppy song comes on that has a hooky chorus, again, people will eat that shit up. But I think it's easy to see through it. Is basically my main point. Best memory you have with a girlfriend. That's really a hard question for me to answer. I think the best moment that I ever had with a girl was the few moments after my daughter was born, and her mother and me and her were in the delivery room together. It was the only time since I was 10 years old. I mean, it quickly faded. That feeling faded real fast, but it was the only time in my life where I felt like I had my own family. It was very brief, but I saw that, I felt in that moment that that human being and I would stick it out, and we would be a family. It didn't happen. You know, 3 months later, shit hit the fucking fan, and everything got a little distorted. You know, life is definitely today not what I expected it to be, but I think that's the zest of life. You know, it never turns out how you expect it to. You know, the bad things will just always get worse, and the malignant will eventually consume you and kill you if you let it. It's important to persevere. It's important to get over those humps. It's important to put something that's in the past in the past. You know, I admittedly, I would have loved if that moment would have been real, because I felt like, you know, especially my kid deserved that, you know, and we weren't able to give it to her. But the fact is, you know, two people had a kid too young. Two people had a kid that were not in love with each other. And that shit became really apparent when we had our own place and we had to coexist as a unit. It didn't work. And it never really showed itself that it didn't work until I met somebody that I was just like head over heels for. Like, just a girl that was everything I ever wanted in a human being. And that turned sour too, you know, and that took me a lot longer to get over. You know, when you really fucking care about something, if you really care about somebody, it's really hard to fucking just watch that thing fade away. But it's important to realize this. And it's something that I don't think a lot of people realize, is life is a perpetual shift. Everything is changing. The problem is people trying to make things not change. You know, you always hear people talk about, let's go back to the 50s, let's go back to the 60s, and they ignore all the bad parts of those times. You know, just like people do with relationships. You know, you don't take into account the infidelity, you don't take into account the fucking name calling or the bad times, or how many times in your head you think this girl is just batshit crazy and I fucking hate her. What you remember are those little moments where you feel whole, where you feel complete. And it's trickery of the brain, you know. But once you overcome it, when you can step out of your own skin and you can view everything objectively, it becomes much easier to just deal with it. And that's what you got to do. You can't live your life as if it were a fucking movie, because that's everybody's problem. Everyone wants these huge fucking epic moments of life, as if that's fucking everywhere. And the fact is, it's not. I mean, most of life is fucking boring. Most of life is routine. You do the same shit every fucking day. until eventually you're fucking old and your youth has passed you by. And most of your youth, you spend it fucking upset. You spend it depressed or mopey. At 20, you're like, man, I wish I was 10 again. At 30, you're like, man, I wish I was 20. And it just goes on and on and on and on and on. You're never at peace with yourself. I think everybody is running back to the child in them. You know, that's something I've noticed as I've gotten older as well. You know, adults are just fucking grown ass children. That's all they are. I mean, there's no like real order to things. There's no. It's all chaos. I mean, everything is chaos that just happens randomly, and everybody's just fucking ebbing with the flow. But I mean, I find peace in that. I find peace in that chaos. But yeah, fun answer for that question. I heard you say you were a damaged person in a blog TV session. Can you explain what caused you to be the damaged person, in quotations, you are today, like moments in your life? Well, I mean, come on, man. Like, you grow up thinking you're going to be something. And then when you end up not being that, it's hard to deal. You know, like, when you're a kid, you can be fucking anything. I think that's why everybody wants that sense of childhood back, because it's a freedom that has no bounds. You know, if you want to be a doctor someday when you're a child, it's like, man, you can think about it, and it makes sense in your head that I could fucking be a doctor. But by the time you're 22, you're like, God damn, there's no way I could be a fucking doctor. I dropped out of high school. Ain't never gonna happen. I'll never be a doctor. I'll never be president of the United States. I'll never be an astronaut. You know, the things you can be quickly become more and more and more limited as you grow up. And that's why I don't ever want to be mature. You know, like, I take pride in the fact that a lot of my humor is the same as it was when I was 14 or 15. When I hear a "that's what she said" joke and it's fucking funny, I think it's way more funny than it even probably is, just because I have that same sense of humor that I did then. I try to keep a little bit of that in me, because I feel like once that's gone, then the spark is gone. And that's why so many people fall into a monotonous routine and go to a 9-to-5 job every fucking day. Do the same thing every second of their life. You know, every day is wake up, eat some breakfast, go to work, come home, fuck your wife, go to sleep. That does not sound interesting to me at all. I love the fact that every day is something different. I don't know what the fuck I'm going to do tomorrow. I have no idea. I like that. You know, Scotty and I, one of the guys that I live with, I told him I can't plan for the future, and we had like a long discussion about this, because he said, you know, you have to plan for the future. You know, you got to think of it at least a little bit, and I don't, and I don't think he believes me when I say it, but I really don't. When I think about the future, I see a really scary place, so I try to keep my thoughts away from it, because there are two things more scary than the present are the future and the past. If you look this way, it's full of your fucking demons that you've already been through. It's everything. It's that girlfriend that you remember. You can still taste the scent of her perfume on your fucking lip. You know, it's all the kids that were fucking mean to you in school. It's not good. And then you look to the future and you don't see shit. You know, and you can make a fucking plan. You can plan to have something in 10, 15, 20 years. But realistically, it's probably not going to fucking happen. And even if it does, it's going to be vastly different than the way you intended it to. So for me, I would rather just live in this moment. I would rather, I'm trying really hard to learn how to appreciate the right now. Because that's all we have. There's no such thing as yesterday. There's no such thing as tomorrow. It's all a fucking illusion. It's something that is in your head. You know, you make up the past. You don't see the past as it actually is. You see the past as you see it. And you can't see the future because no one can. So I think it is not productive at all to look in either direction. I would rather live for this exact moment and just relish in that, because that's the only way I'm not fucking scared to death. I understand why you don't like Billy Corgan's views from your video about Fred Durst being your father. I just like reading that. Fred Durst being my father. Are your thoughts about the Smashing Pumpkins similar? Okay, here's the thing. I have a hard time enjoying the Smashing Pumpkins because the way that my evolution has went with my music taste is I started listening to Nirvana, and then that got me into like Nine Inch Nails and Smashing Pumpkins and Manson and all these other different alt bands of the '90s when I was a kid. But the thing is I want to say I hate Billy Corgan because I don't know who Billy Corgan is. I never met the dude, and hate is a really fucking strong word. I don't like to apply that liberally. I reserve that term for specific people, people that I know and genuinely fucking despise with every ounce of my flesh. But I'm just very disappointed in the person that Billy Corgan became because the same guy that wrote The Fickle Fascination of an Everlasting God ended up becoming a new age, batshit insane Christian. And it's really disappointing. It's hard for me to go back and listen to those songs. All I hear is what he turned into. I even like Zeitgeist. I think Bleeding the Orchid is one of the Smashing Pumpkins' greatest songs of all time. But you got to take that in with the fact that Billy Corgan is this arrogant douche. I read this Guitar World interview with him once and said that he doesn't think he gets enough credit, that he thinks he was like an innovator of the 90s, and he doesn't get enough credit. He's a starving artist still, even though he's a fucking millionaire. And it's just like fuck you, dude. I mean, fine, you may have influenced shit, fine. But if that's gonna come out later, then it will. There's no sense to fucking bitch about it. Just make your fucking music, do what you do, and be the artist that you are. Don't worry about how you're being perceived by a mass audience. And that's what killed Billy Corgan. That's what killed basically anybody that I enjoy that hit stardom. It destroyed Kurt Cobain. It destroyed Trent Reznor. Even though I enjoyed the work that he did on the Social Network. I don't know how I forgot that, but that's the internal struggle that I have in my head, because there's part of me that wants that. There's part of me that wants to make something that is in the zeitgeist and everybody knows about it. But at the same time, I know that would likely destroy everything I am. It destroys everybody. It even destroyed Eminem. He went from having something to say to, I guess that's why they call it window pane. It's sad, man. It's sad. Money makes artists suck. I've been wondering for a while, what kind of guitar do you have? It looks pretty unique. A guy from Keokuk, my hometown, built this guitar for me. It's a handcrafted John Cameron guitar. I really like the tone. It has an active pickup in it. It's an acoustic electric. It's really thin. Has a super thin neck. I really like it. It's a really good guitar. What is your opinion of going to college? Is it more harmful than beneficial? I've heard you discuss how the current college system leaves you fucked in the ass, but do you think it helps the individual in the long run? Alright, well, let's get started on this one. College sucks. And here's what it's done. The youth has lost their ability to really dream, because they confine themselves in these formal education brackets, and they think they got to do certain things to get certain fucking places. But listen, unless you want to be a doctor or a chemist or a lawyer, then college is probably just going to end up fucking you. It's going to leave you in hundreds of $1,000s of debt that you'll be paying off for the rest of your life probably, unless you somehow get some amazing job, which I don't know if you've seen the economy lately, but they don't really seem to be around. I dropped out of high school. I have no desire to go to college. And it's not because I don't like learning, because I love to learn. I love understanding new things and gaining new perspectives on the way people think. But I don't think college offers that. I don't think anybody really goes to college to learn. They go to college to get the verification that they're not ignorant, that they're not stupid, that they worked hard. It's all a piece of paper. That's all it is. I mean, you waste 2, 4, 6, 8 years of your life for a piece of fucking paper. And I realize a lot of college is about the experience. I live in a college town, so I see that goddamn experience every time I walk out fucking side. But for most people, I see it as something that cripples them, inevitably. It eventually leaves them penniless and owing these giant conglomerates a ton of fucking money. Whether it be through that specific college or whether it be once you get into a fucking job and end up going through debt into something else, because that's all that you're weighed by in America is how much debt you have. You can be considered a wealthy person if you have $0. I'm wealthy compared to a lot of college graduates because yeah, I don't have any money, but I don't owe a university $150,000. I spent those years that they were in college, I learned things myself. If you want to go into business or if you're into art, don't ever go to fucking business school. Don't ever go to art school. You're never going to get a job in the arts with a fucking degree. I mean, maybe if you have, you want to work for fucking Pixar or something, fine. But if you just want to be a fucking artist that makes his shit and sell it, then make your stuff and just sell it yourself. You don't need a piece of paper. You don't fucking need it. It has crippled our youth, and where in prior generations they would question the concept of college. They would question the concept of all this formal education and to produce a good American. We've lost that. No one cares anymore. No one gives a shit about that. They care about getting that piece of paper, and during that 4 years where they're going to get it, they care about fucking as many people as they can, doing as many different drugs as they can, get it all out of their system, so eventually they can be 30 years old and boring. I'm not saying everybody's like this. I'm not saying that college is that for everybody. I know a lot of people work hard and really care about their fucking degrees, and that's fine. More power to you. But I just don't agree. I don't think you need that shit. For the most part. I mean, unless you have a very specific job that you want that requires the college. Me, personally, I just want to make art. That's all I want to do. I want to make stuff. I want to affect people. I want to be affected. I don't care if I ever make a ton of money. Money is not my objective in what I do. I don't know what my objective is anymore. I have a hard time figuring it out or understanding it anymore. But I think at the end of the day, it's just that's the only way I can express myself. I don't know if it's art imitating life or life imitating art at this point, but I know that I really care about what I do. And no college on earth would have made me care about it anymore or any less. So, I mean, I guess maybe let me change my whole point here. If your perspective is making a ton of money and you think that a degree will help you make that money and help you acquire that little bit of power that, your balls need, fine, dude, go ahead. More power to you. I just don't have that objective. I don't want to control anybody. I just want to make shit. That's all I want. Has living with TJ changed your personality in any way, significant or not? I mean, I think if you live with someone for a long enough period of time, they're gonna affect you in a way that changes you. I obviously respect TJ. I think he is a very brilliant guy. He's one of my favorite writers. When you put a camera in front of him, the dude shines. He's just very outspoken. He's very good at what he does. We don't always agree on things, obviously we aren't the same fucking human beings, so we have, but that's what makes things interesting, I love the life that I have right now, and 8-9 months ago I wouldn't have been able to say that. They have helped me to really live off of my art. This is the first time in my life I can actually say that. So I feel like I'm, as much as I know that they feel like they're being helped by me, I feel like I'm just as equally being helped by them, and I think that's why it works. I don't think it would work any other way. I think if we weren't all, if we didn't all have the same objective, if we didn't have the same goals in mind, it wouldn't work. But fortunately, we do. You know, we all want the same things. So I couldn't imagine a better scenario right than what I have right now. I mean, if I do this forever, if I work with these people forever, I'll be happy with that. And sometimes I feel like that's what I'm heading into. You know, I don't feel like with most people it's like a short-term thing. I feel like working with TJ and you know the business that we're maintaining and trying to expand. I feel like that's something I can see myself doing for a very long period of time and be fine with. So yeah, there you go. What are some of your what are your some This is a really poorly worded question. Let me read it and then say it. What are some of your favorite childhood TV shows slash films? Favorite childhood shows, definitely The Adventures of Pete and Pete. Best show that was ever on Nickelodeon by a long shot. Such a good show. I love Rocko's Modern Life and Hey Arnold. I'm trying to think. Ren and Stimpy, of course. Beavis and Butthead. Early South Park. Daria. I watched all those shows. I was really, like, a lot of people's childhoods were like films. You know, like a lot of kids watched movies when they were kids. And this is always something that I have a problem with when I meet people, because they always talk about these movies that I've never seen from the 90s, because the first thing I ever wanted to do was be a cartoonist. I loved cartoons when I was a kid. I used to doodle. I would write these characters and give them little, nuance that gave them flavor and personality. But I quickly realized that I have absolutely no talent at drawing. So by the time I was like 9 or probably 9, I was like, oh, I can't do this. And that's when I really got into writing, because I thought, well, I could still write these characters and someone else could draw them. And that's something that's never went away. I still really want to write an animated series someday. Like, that's one of my goals in life. Don't want to have any say on how it's animated, because I can't do it. I'm not good at it. But I think I could write a good cartoon. Just once in my life, I want to give it a shot. And I probably will someday. I mean, right now I have other things that are, more relevant to my life. I'm trying to get an album done, trying to get a documentary done. That's what I probably should be working on right now, by the way, but I can't be turned away from my fucking audience. It's you guys, man, you guys. What's the worst religion? Well, if that's not like being asked, what's the worst way to get hit in the balls? They're all terrible. I mean, they're also all good. And that really fucking hurts to say. But I have seen religion affect people positively. I have seen religion turn alcoholics into people that, didn't have any desire to drink, or at least they fucking deluded themselves into believing it because of God. Good for you, dude. If that's what you need, if that's the crutch that you need, good for you. I don't want to take that shit from you. It only becomes a problem when those people try to mandate their beliefs, when they try to make their beliefs legislation. When we have this internal struggle between old and new America. And that's really what it is. It's an old mentality of how things are done versus a new mentality. And everyone is scared of something that's new, something that's fresh, something that they haven't seen before. It's always scary. It's always the first reaction. If it's not in the same box that you're used to, then I don't want it anymore. But, I don't think any one religion is worse than another. They're all just as bad. They're all just as good. When did you start drumming, and if you were in marching band, what drum did you like to play? I started playing drums when I was 10 years old. My dad is a fantastic drummer. When he was like an 80s hair metal drummer. Don't let that fucking fool you into thinking that he was like some shallow dude that didn't care about his craft, because he just liked getting laid. That's what it was. He liked looking good and getting laid. And I can fucking understand that. At 17, I'm like, man, how did my dad ever do that shit? But at 22, I'm like, all right, I understand what you were doing, Dad. And I kind of respect it. But my dad is this fantastic drummer, just very good. My grandma, she always kept all of his school marching band stuff. When he get like ones in competition, 1 is like the best score you can get. Funny thing, I wouldn't be a drummer right now if it wasn't for that woman, because They told my grandma, and this is in the late '60s, by the way. So I mean, people weren't as politically correct as they are now, obviously. And they said, "Listen, Carol, I know your son wants to play drums, but he just doesn't have it in him. He would be better suited for like a trombone or something." And my grandma's like, "Well, where can I buy a snare drum at?" And they're like, "Well, you're not listening to me." And my grandma was like, "No, like my son wants to play drums. He's gonna play the drums. Where can I get drums at?" And they're like, the band teacher was like, you're not listening to me. She's like, "No, I'm listening. I just don't care. My son wants to be a drummer. I think he would be good at it." Sure enough, my dad fucking got a snare drum. My grandma worked 8 weeks at a factory to buy him a fucking brand new drum set. And he got fucking phenomenal at them. Got very fucking good. Was, taking his talents way over on another side of the country because of that woman. And, fucking 15 years later, my dad teaches me all the things that he learned. And I started playing when I was 10 years old. I wasn't very good, obviously, when I started. I knew a couple beats, but my dad just had this enthusiasm about it. Like, we connected on a real level. Because I always loved music. I mean, music has been in every part of my life. I mean, when I think of a moment, I can almost always correlate it with a song or a series of songs. But when I was 10, my dad always had this rule growing up. He said, he was always very lenient. Do what you want, have fun. But just don't go in the basement and fuck with my music equipment. Because he kept all the shit from the 80s. He kept all his lights. He kept his drums. He kept, all that stuff. It was just sitting in the basement. He even had the drum set up. When my mom got pregnant, he gave it up. He moved from California back to here, and he's like, well, I'm letting that shit go. This is what I got to do now. And so I listened. If that was the one rule that he had, fine. I won't touch drums. But of course, being a kid, the one thing your parents say you can't do, that's what you want to do. So sometimes I realized, okay, I went to school till 3 o'clock. My dad worked till 4. That gave me an hour between 3 to 4 to fuck around on the drums downstairs without him catching me. And so I did that. And I did it, whenever I could. Probably not as often as I feel like I did, but I feel like I was down in the basement a lot. When my mom and my dad got divorced, my dad decided, as I'm sure most men would that spend 11 years in a failed marriage, 10 or 11 years, something like that. First thing you want to do is fucking go back to your roots. Go back, make some music, And that's what he decided he was going to do. He fixed his drums up, he painted them, bought some new cymbals, bought some new music equipment, and he brought them upstairs. And he set them up in what used to be the dining room, but now it was the makeshift music room. And one day he was in the shower, but I thought he was still at work. So I'm like, yes, I'm going to go play drums. And I was just going crazy behind him and really enjoying myself. My dad comes out in a towel and he goes, "What the fuck are you doing?" And I'm like, "Oh, I'm sorry, Dad. I'm sorry. I know you told me not to mess with the drums." He goes, No. Keep playing them. Like, very obviously something my dad would do. He's not like a disciplinarian by any fucking means. He whipped me one time my whole life, and then he cried about it. He was like, "I'm so sorry. Your mom made me do it." Just a very sweet guy. But he just started to show me things, and I mean that's what helped me. The reason I'm a good drummer today is because I had a really good teacher. I wouldn't have known anything, if he wouldn't have been like, he showed me all my rudiments before I ever went to band in school. He showed me all these different beats. He showed me how to do fills and where they were appropriate, how to do them tastefully. And then when I got into middle school, my band director happened to be a drummer. And he fucking loved me. And I just got way significantly better at that point. Because then I had 2 teachers and 2 totally different styles of drumming. By the time I was 13 or 14, I met I think I was 14. I met the girl that would eventually be the mother to my daughter. And she just wasn't into it at all. I mean, she said she was, but she really didn't like all the attention I got when I played. Because it happens sometimes, There are just some girls that are attracted to a dude playing an instrument. I don't know what it is, but it's like a pheromone or something. It just leaks off of you in your sweat. So I kind of gave it up, you know, from like 14, from, I guess, no, not 14, because I was in a band at 14. I would say probably 16 to 19, I didn't play drums at all. And then right before, right before she got pregnant with our daughter, one of our mutual friends was starting a band called Shiva, and I was in a band with him when I was a younger kid, and he was like, "You should play drums for us. We don't have a drummer," and I was fucking dying to do it, you know, but I didn't want to show it in my face because I didn't want the fight. I didn't, and looking back, that was the biggest mistake of my life because I sacrificed something that was so important to me for a fucking girl. If you're doing that right now, break up with that girl. She's not worth it. Trust me. Wasted years where I could have been getting better at my craft, and I just sat on it. I can't forgive myself for that. No matter how hard I try, I can't forgive myself for that. But anyway, he said, you know, you should come drum for us. So I, you know, after like a long conversation, you know, I'm like, let me go try it out. And she must have saw the look in my face when she showed up at that practice. It just felt like I was home again. You know, because playing drums is the only place I really feel comfortable. And I'm self-conscious about everything I do artistically, whether it be videos, photography, writing, YouTube videos. I'm always incredibly self-conscious of it. Earlier tonight, I uploaded a song I played on guitar, and I just removed it because I can't handle the fucking criticism of my music when it comes to that area of it. But when I play drums, I know that I'm a good drummer. I know that I am. So but it's the one thing that I do the least, so it really bugs me. But she must have saw that I was really, really into it because from then on she was like, you know, this is something I want for you. And that was one of the main times I thought, man, I really do love this girl because she sees how much I want this and she wants it for me. And she was really, you know, very supportive for a long time. And we weren't doing shit. We were just playing local shows at the time. Hadn't even broke out of our little, you know, bubble. We never really did. I think we could have. It just never happened. I mean, after you go through 2 or 3 lineup changes, it just becomes exhausting. Which is what happened in the 4-year run. I guess 3-year run of the band. I don't remember how long it lasted. But I miss it every day. I miss going to band practice with those guys. I miss seeing Chris as a guy that played guitar. I miss my brother being the vocalist. I miss Jamie being the vocalist. I miss Bryce playing bass. I miss writing music. There's nothing more in my life that I want right now than to be the drummer of a band again. And I'm waiting because we're moving in July. We're going down south in July. So I don't want to get too attached to anything here. But when we get to fucking where we're going, we haven't really decided where yet. We just know we're going somewhere where it doesn't fucking snow that much. That's my main goal. Because it's very important to me. You know, like, I can't tell you how many hours my dad spent showing me things. And it's really important to me to do something with it. Even if it's not on a grand level, just something. We've been talking about this for a long time, but it's something that's been weighing on my thoughts for a while. That question alone was why I wanted to do a part 2 video, because I didn't see that question until I had already made the other video. I look like my dad right now. It creeps me out sometimes. Like, sometimes I look at myself and I feel like I'm looking at my dad, like I'm looking at my father. And I look over at this direction and I feel like I look just like my mom. And I realize that physically I'm just the makeup of those two people, so it shouldn't fuck with me too much, but it does. It really, really does. I'm like a not as good looking version of those two people. My brother got the good looks. I don't know what the fuck I got. But anyway. What is your descent? Are you a Jew? What is it? See, I have a fucking Jew nose. Everyone says, no you don't. Your nose is not that big. Look at that fucking thing. Look at it. That's a big fucking nose. I'm fine with it. I'm comfortable, but no, not Jewish. I'm German as far back as I've researched, which is pretty far. My mom's entire lineage is all German, incredibly fucking German. And my dad's lineage is all German. Weber, the name Weber comes from the German word weaver, which obviously means to weave things. And my first name means cushion. So I'm a cushion weaver. If I sewed things, then I would have a very accurate name. What are your favorite brand new lyrics? God damn it. A deer that a hunter shot in the heart, some dogs that got hit by cars, all came to spill their guts. And in that same song, some men die under the mountain just looking for gold. Some die looking for a hand to hold. Like, it's like very eloquent. Perfect. Jesse Lacey is a fucking genius in every way. What is my view on youth? It's really sad as it starts to fade away. You know, when you're a fucking young kid, the stage that you look to is, man, I can't wait till I'm a grown-up and I'm a teenager. And then you hit your teen years, and you're like, I can't wait till I can fucking drink and smoke cigarettes and be crazy, be in my 20s. It's going to be awesome. That's when you really do the big things in your life, you know. Then, you know, you get here, I'm at 22. I realize the next stage is the end of youth. You know, this is the last tail end of it, you know. By the time, the next stage is like 30 to 35. And I'll be there eventually. You know, like, I'll blink and be there. It freaks me out how fast time goes by. It seems like February just started. It must be weird to be like 65 years old. It's like you wake up and it's nighttime. Time to go to bed. Because, you know, time is all perceptive. When you're a kid, you wait all year during school, which seems like a fucking eternity at the time, to get those blessed 3 months of summer, to do whatever the fuck you want. That's why I never went to summer camp and shit, because that's all just extra school. You don't want to learn shit in summer when you're a kid. Sorry, I needed a cigarette. But, you know, and so, when you hit summer, it just seems like those days are endless. Like, they never end. Like, you can go outside in your backyard and explore that backyard forever. And it's interesting every time. And then you hit your 20s out of nowhere, and suddenly, I've been to so many parts of the country. And I feel like I've seen nothing. I feel like the world is so small. Like, the world doesn't contain what I want it to contain. When I was a kid, the grass was lava, and the fucking swing set was a castle. The fucking roof was the sky, and my trampoline, you know, was, when you hit it, you flew, you know, and you really flew for a second. You believed in your head that you were flying. You lose that when you get older. You lose the ability to imagine, and it's really sad, you know. The people that are most respected, especially artistically, are the people that kind of tap into that, I think. The people that trigger that response. You know, they give you that same kind of, that same feeling in your chest of just ease. You know, like, do you remember when you were a kid and you thought that there was something in your bedroom that was going to kill you? And for some reason, just going into your parents' room made that thing go away? Made all the problems in the world go away? If you fucking bumped your head on a doorknob or some shit, your fucking mom kisses your forehead and suddenly it doesn't hurt anymore? Why can't we have that now? Why is that the thing that has to go away? That is another fucking struggle that I have, because I have a hard time letting go of the fact that I'm not a young cat anymore, you know? When teenagers look at me, they see an adult. And that fucks with my head, because I don't feel like an adult at all. I still feel like I'm 16 years old. 95% of the time, I feel like I'm a fucking teenager. The only time I feel like an adult is when I go and buy a fucking bottle of booze, which is not very responsible. But nothing else in life really gives you the idea that you're old, you know. I'm sure something will eventually, you know, but I still feel so young. I don't feel like I'm 22 years old, is what I'm trying to say, I guess. But youth is beautiful because it allows you to see things falsely, and that's how you base everything you believe. You realize that everything you believe are based on experiences that you probably perceived the wrong way. You didn't see Christmas as it really was. You know, you didn't see your fucking dad bringing in the presents. You weren't thanking your mom for fucking wrapping that shit. all night the night before, you were thanking fucking Santa Claus for bringing your shit, and that was fine. Good old youth. Who are some of the people you draw inspiration from? In other words, what are your heroes? Well, the second part wasn't necessary because I don't have heroes. My father is a hero of mine. I guess I could say that because I mean, the dude is just, I don't know. He's emotionally, the way that he treats people. That's what I want to. That's how I want to treat people. Anybody can walk up to my fucking dad on the street, and they'd instantly have a new friend. You know, he won't look at, you know, you could tell him the most deplorable shit that you've done in the world. He will not judge you for it. I have done some shitty things in my life. I have done some just terrible things. And I can tell him those things. I've been able to tell him those things my whole life. Because I know he's not going to be, like, incredibly judgmental about it. He will understand it, and even if he doesn't understand it, he'll forget it. He won't attach those negative things to you. He only will see the positive things. You know, when my dad talks to me, he treats me like I'm this like really intelligent guy that's talented and all these things that I'm not as, you know, I'm not what he sees. But that's what's beautiful about him. You know, he sees the potential. He sees what you can be. You know, when I dropped out of high school, he wasn't happy about it, but he accepted it. He said, I don't want you to get a fucking McDonald's job. I don't want you to waste your fucking time and be 22, 23, 24 years old and not have any idea what you want to do with your life. I want you to focus on your music. I want you to focus on your art. I want you to focus on your writing. I want you to get really good at that. I'll make sure you eat every day. But if I come home and you don't have new shit, I'm going to be upset. And that's how it was. You know, he really helped that. He helped me discover myself as an artist because I wouldn't have been able to do it if I had to work 12 hours a day somewhere. So I really respect him for that. And for that, I mean that is you know, very important to me. My grandmother's another hero of mine. But I mean, escaping the family aspect of things because those things are interesting to you guys because you don't know these people who I'm talking about. Kurt Cobain, he had a tremendous impact on how I view things. Which is also kind of strange because my perception of Cobain has changed over the years as well. He was a feminist, and I obviously, as you've seen in videos prior to this, maybe if you haven't, check my channel out and watch them. If you want to. Don't do it if you don't, I guess. I'm a fucking goober. But he also got religious later on in his life, which is strange to say later on because he wasn't that much older than me when he started discovering these things. But he did die at 28, so it was later on in his life he discovered religion. He was also very codependent on women. And that's the one thing, that's what I related to in his journals. Is he always talked about having like this broken family when he was a kid, and he blamed himself for it. And I did that too. You know, when my parents got divorced, the reason my dad eventually found out everything that was going on was because, you know, my mom ended up not showing up to a soccer game one day and went to fucking find her. And I blamed myself for that for like 5 or 6 years. And it fucked with me. And then I met the girl that would end up, you know, having my kid. I don't want to say her name because, you know, privacy and shit, and she's not a part of my life anymore, so I don't feel entitled to even say her name. Which is strange in itself because I never thought I'd be saying that, but I do, and that's how I feel about it. But I took all those problems and I put them into her. And when she showed me any kind of emotion, when she would come to me about just little things, you know, it made me feel like I was important. And I fucking lived in that. I lived in that for 5 years. You know, I let go of all my friends. I let go of all my dreams. Everything. Just because I wanted this person, you know. And I didn't want that person. I just wanted that feeling of warmth and being embraced. And it's something that I haven't felt since her. I really haven't. I mean, I don't have any feelings toward that woman at all. But admittedly, since I was like 16, 17, 18 years old, I haven't felt that kind of love. I haven't felt that enthusiasm. Because, I mean, she hates me now. Like, she fucking despises everything about me. But she can't say she's always felt that way. At one time, she was fucking crazy for me. Even if that feeling wasn't reciprocated, and that's why she fucking hates me now, and I totally understand that because it wasn't. I never really cared about her the way she cared about me. But you know, sorry, I lost my train of thought. Uh, oh, fucking inspiration, Kurt Cobain. Okay, now I know what I was saying. I put all my shit into her, and then when we broke up, I just got really suicidal for a while. I mean, just I didn't want to live anymore. I wanted to fall asleep and not wake up. I was too much of a pussy to buy a gun and kill myself. I was too much of a, I cared too much about the people that loved me to hurt them that way. But deep inside, um, which by the way, that depth felt very shallow when that person left my life because it was like 50% of me was gone. Because I really depended on that girl to live. I depended on her to get by. In every way. I didn't have anybody to talk about with things anymore. When I was self-conscious about myself, I just had to live with it. I didn't have someone telling me, no, you're wrong. You're not fat. You're not ugly. You're not, you're talented. You're smart. When I was telling myself, dude, you don't know anything. You don't know what you're talking about. You're disgusting. You're fat. You're ugly. I just had to live with it. And one day, some other girl entered my life, and I was fucking crazy about her. But years down the road, I realized the only reason I was crazy about her, and probably the same reason why the first girl was so attached to me, was because it wasn't reciprocated. It never was reciprocated, and you always want what you don't feel like you really have. And if I would have known how that felt, if I would have known how because that emptiness felt way worse than the other one, the one with the first girl, because she, when you really love somebody and love becomes infatuation. And once it becomes that, it's not love anymore. Then it's fucking sickness. And I was sick for a long fucking time. One day you just wake up and you realize, and it's not a good realization, it's not like a healthy epiphany. I mean, it might be healthy for you, but it doesn't feel good to realize that the only reason you love this person is because she doesn't love you. And the only reason that girl loved you is because you didn't love her. I have yet in my life to experience that kind of love with somebody that it was a mutual thing. And the older I get, the more I think that it's unlikely that I'll have it. And I'm just trying to make do with that. There's things more important to me than that at this point. I put that love, those feelings that I have, I put that into the things that I make, or I try to at least, because that's the only way I can get by at this point. Everyone is codependent on something. You're codependent on a person. You're codependent on a concept. You're codependent on a mentality or a philosophy or a religion. I was codependent on women, and that is why Kurt Cobain was so appealing to me, because that was him. He was the same exact way. And he put all of his feelings into a couple different women as well. He fell in love with a woman named Toby something. I don't remember her last name. Again, it wasn't reciprocated. And that's how Nevermind happened. Which is very interesting. Then he found Courtney Love, and maybe that, I have a hard time judging them two, because it seems like at the very least that was a romance that was reciprocated, even if it was fucked up. Sorry, I have a cold. But a lot of people have these theories like Courtney Love killed Kurt Cobain, and it's bullshit. Kurt Cobain was a depressed junkie, hated being a junkie because he had a kid, and he hated being famous, but he loved being famous, and he hated that he loved being famous. It was just a constant struggle. Anybody that thinks Kurt Cobain didn't have all of the right, criteria to commit suicide, they're deluding themselves. Cobain was very important in that aspect, because I felt like, when I was younger, I felt like we had like a bond. Even though this guy was dead, I felt like there was at least one other human being in the universe that got it like I got it, that understood things, or at least saw things in a similar vein as I did. Then I realized later on that my mentality changed. Cobain's can't change because he's dead. So it's hard for me to even go back and listen to Nirvana records, even though I still love them all, because I feel like when I listen to Nirvana records, I'm listening back on in a way on an old version of myself, and that's kind of hard to do. I guess it's not easy. But through Kurt Cobain, I started getting into stand-up comedy, which is kind of weird, but I really, really, really got into Bill Hicks and George Carlin. And those two people are still very important to my mentality. Especially Bill Hicks. He had a really visceral approach to things. He had no bullshit. I agreed with most of the things he said. I mean, some things, no, but I don't agree with anybody on everything. I never met a human being on Earth that I identify with 100%. It just hasn't happened. Some other people, Hunter S. Thompson, Bill Watterson. I can't forget Bill Watterson. Jesse Lacey and Brand New. Just mostly musicians. And maybe not musicians that are even very technically proficient. Which is strange because when I was young, that's what I really wanted to do. I wanted to be the greatest drummer that ever lived. Which is all fucking bullshit anyway. It's all perceptive. Some people think I'm the best YouTuber. Even though that's completely fucking false. I hear it sometimes. But it's all fucking perceptive. This is the last question, by the way. What's your approach to songwriting, and where can I purchase any of your recordings? I don't sell my music because my music's the one thing that I want to always stay pure. And I know that's a really fucking pseudo fucking intellectual nonsense, and that you gotta make your fucking money. I'm not dogging on the people that use it to make money. I think that's beautiful. I just don't have any desire to do that. Thing is, all the music I've released, with the exception of the things I released in 2009, I don't like. I don't think they were made well. I don't like the chord progressions. I don't like the melodies. I fucking despise my vocals, and I despise the way that I did them. I'm embarrassed of it. I'm working on an EP right now. Don't have a name for it yet. I've been working on it for about a year. I have 8 songs pretty much done. That one I will put online for free when it's done. Ein Astronaut is on it a lot, or is going to be on it a lot. Anyway, in my head, I see him as the vocalist for most of the songs. But I don't have a songwriting process. I mean, I don't have one of those kind of brains that hears a melody and then tries to recreate the melody. I know some people do. I'm just not one of them. I just pick up my guitar and start fucking around. Almost everything I do starts on the guitar. And when I get something down that I start liking, I'll go to other instruments. I'll start writing a bass line in my head, or I'll do a synth part online, or through my synths on my VST instruments that I have over there on that computer. And it all just kind of goes. I don't question it when I'm doing it. When I start producing it and I start editing things down, then I'll be like, all right, this doesn't really fit, this doesn't really fit. It's not really what I'm trying to go for. Even in my head, I don't ever have a specific thing that I'm going for, but I have there's always a tone or an atmosphere that I'm trying to create. And that's what I'm most concerned with. I want to create atmospheres. I want somebody to hear something and it trigger an emotion, it trigger a response. And the only way to do that is to trigger the response in me. So that's what I try to do. I feel like my music is the most intimate thing that I do, because it's the only thing that I do that I don't fucking overanalyze to the point that it's just dead. I will look at a photo that I've taken 1,000 times before I decide if I like it or not. Whenever I write 5 or 6 drafts of something. I've tried to do this response video about 6 times now. This Q&A part 2. I'm just very critical of myself. But with music, I don't want to be. And because of that, I don't want to charge anybody for it because I don't ever view it as work. You know, sometimes words become work. Sometimes photos become work. Sometimes videos become work. Music has never felt that way to me. It's always just, it's the only way that I can truly be myself. It's the only time I'm not missing somebody. It's the only time I'm not dwelling on some bullshit. It's the only thing that I have that I can fully dive into and just get away from everything. So I don't want to charge people for it. The link to Rainy Days is still, you know, wandering on the internet somewhere. I don't know what it is, but if I were you, I wouldn't download it because I just think it's dog shit. And maybe that's just me being critical. At the time when I made it, I was very proud of it. I was very happy with it. But I just think it has a very one-dimensional sound. All the content was very contrived, and it was me. It was a fucking album about unrequited love, which is the same as like every other goddamn album on earth. I don't know, just not good. If you can see behind me, maybe you can see over here. There's like a little waveform. I'm working on a song right now. It was a song I tried to upload a live version to earlier tonight, but I decided that was not a good idea. Scotty and I drank a whole bunch earlier, and I'm not drunk now. I wasn't drunk when I started this video even. That's the thing with alcohol, is it always wears off like real quick with me. I'll feel really drunk for a second and then it just goes away. But I was still feeling drunk. I'm like, fuck it. I'm not even gonna bother recording it. I'm just gonna play it live and upload it. If they don't like it, fuck them. But then I recorded it and uploaded it. I didn't even watch it. I walked away. I went on a walk and listened to some music, and I came back and watched it, and I'm like, oh god, this is terrible. Delete. And that's the same thing with most of the shit that I've tried to do over the last year. I've had a really bad writer's block musically. That's why it's taken me. In July, it'll be 2 years since Rainy Days came out, and that's too long for a fucking next record. But I don't know. I just want it to be. I want it to be what I see in my head. You know, like. And I didn't do that with Rainy Days. I let it just be its thing, and I tried my best to not focus too hard on it. And that was a mistake. You should always focus on what you're doing, because a lot of those songs, not good. But the new album will be, I promise. I'll end the video with a song I'm working on. The song's called Stiff. Maybe, if I can get it to upload. Alright, well, it's not going to upload, so I guess that ain't going to happen. Sorry, I didn't mean to be a cock tease or anything. That computer... Oh, there it is. Here we go. Hope you guys enjoyed this. I'll be back to making regular videos soon. I've been too busy lately. I don't know if I put these on. Anyway, if you sat through this whole thing, in the comment section below, say name those.